if it feels scary, if it feels unfamiliar, that's exactly where the enemy doesn't want you to go over there, because that's where you get to fulfill your destiny. That's what God has got for you. And I think we can sell ourselves short by staying in the comfortable and the familiar. That's not God's plan for you.
I know that every single one of you have been in a wilderness season or are currently in a wilderness season. I have been following our guest for quite some time. I just want to say that my guest has always been real and authentic and just a real human, but loves the Lord so much and has shined so brightly, even in her own humanity, what it is to go through a wilderness season. So, Katie, I just want to welcome you. I have Katie Wood with me. Welcome to
Hello.
Sword and Grace.
Thank
I
you.
think it would be great if you could just introduce who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Tina. And hello, everybody. My name is Katie Wood. I am the mission business midwife. And essentially, I help Christian women on mission in the marketplace to birth, build, and multiply their mission so that it becomes a global movement. And so they are able to transform thousands of lives for the kingdom. And we do this through business infrastructure, but also identity, daughter identity, because we are one, right? We are not just a business owner. We're not just a daughter. So it's holistic, it really is looking at the daughter and her business to fulfill the mission that God's given you.
I love that. So I know, Katie, we were trying to get this episode booked, and I know I was catching you, I think, as you had said, at the end of your wilderness season. And I thought, when I saw you had done a recent teaching, I thought, Lord, is this the timing? So that's when I reached out. And I really just want to capture this topic of a wilderness season with you, because I know that it's a hard season. It's exceptionally hard for women. And I think this is the time that many want to give up what they're doing.
Absolutely. And retreat. And actually, we need to just not necessarily lean in, but allow the seasons that God takes us through, because he uses them for a purpose, and even when they're hard, which they are, we are human at the end of the day. We are living a human experience here on earth, and wilderness seasons are part of that. They're unavoidable.
Yeah, they're unavoidable. And I think certainly the Lord uses those seasons as our refinement. Okay, so I have a question for you. When you think about this wilderness season, I'm sure it wasn't the only wilderness season that you've
No,
been
far
through.
from it. It was the driest. It was the driest.
It was the driest.
Mm.
Okay, maybe you can share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So although I mean, I've been through many wilderness seasons in my life, and God has turned it all around for good, but this one was especially hard. And although when I say it is the driest, actually it was the one that I cried the most tears. But what the Lord kind of did through that was just phenomenal. I'm sure we'll go into it today. But I think the impact of this wilderness season was the greatest upon my business, in terms of I had so many plans. I had so many plans for my year and my business, and everything just came to a halt. I had to retreat. The Lord actually hid me away, and you don't realize what he's doing until you're coming out the other side. But yeah, it was tough, but the Lord really used it to, honestly, just the biggest lessons I could have ever, well, unexpected lessons as well through it all. Unexpected lessons.
Yeah, and I wonder, so when you think about those lessons, do you think there was things, I don't know that I necessarily like this word, but I think the wilderness season exposes things within us that the Lord just wants to put his hand on there, even though there's goodness, Kate, the fact that you said it was the season where you cried the most.
Mm.
Did you find that the Lord was exposing certain things?
Well, I think yes, because I'd fallen into a trap last year. I joined a worldly mastermind, and I was doing business, and I was chasing after this, and I've always been mission. My motto is money follows mission. I've always been that, but something started to shift in terms of the balance last year, before the wilderness season happened. And I think the wilderness season was completely out of my control. It was a multiple grief and loss season. But in that, I think the Lord took me back and had me really evaluate what it was I was doing, and why, more importantly, I was doing it. And not just why, but who I was in on the mission. And like it was just, he was exposing that part, but also what happened alongside this, as well as like, you know, it's not just business. It impacted my business, and it enabled me to analyze what had been going on in my business and where I needed to pivot or evolve or shift, or there was things that I needed to put down. But also, more importantly, I think, was my identity. My mum was going through dementia, so she was having psychosis, and she's been my best friend forever. And she's only 63, so really early, really rapid decline, lots of psychosis, lots, all of that kind of stuff. And then my maternal grandfather passed away, and 4 months later, my maternal grandmother passed away. Now, these were my immediate family. Of course, I've got my dad, I've got my sister, I've now got my husband. But my identity was anchored in my role in that family. So not only was I going through the wilderness in my business, I was also thinking, okay, well, who am I now? And the Lord used it to really, he gave me my new title in that time. So I wasn't the mission business midwife before all of this wilderness season. He gave it to me. He gave me a new name. He gave me a new name, right? In the middle of a wilderness season. But I think it's just so beautiful, isn't it? He has such care and love for us that he's right in there with us as we fall apart, so he can rebuild us as he wants us to be rebuilt.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, Katie, that you identified there's this identity. And I wonder if there's a lot of women who thought their identity, particularly I think as women in our families, where we have such a perception of the responsibility we have in our family, and that becomes the identity. And we've actually assumed this, and God hasn't even given us that. And I love that you're speaking about that, because as you've been sharing that you walked through wilderness season with your mom, and that would have been exceptionally hard because we do wrap ourselves around our family.
Yes, yeah.
So God gave you a new name. And I wonder, as only God can do. So when you look back prior to your wilderness season, do you it's hard because I know there's many women who are in this now who are going to feel like, I feel like I was doing all of the things right. And where did I go wrong? I think there's something about that I want to capture for women, because there's this, I feel like there's this pull for women where it's like, I feel like what I'm doing is right, but it's almost like they're experiencing the ceiling, if that makes sense. And I wonder if you can capture, maybe through your own story, as you walked through it and you got to this wilderness season and the Lord changed your name. Maybe it's capturing, did you need to go through the wilderness season to walk into that revelation, or what was it about that?
I think I did, because I was doing what I thought I should be doing. I was doing all the right things, and I wasn't outside of the will of God. I just want to put that caveat on it, because sometimes we can think things aren't going right because I've done something wrong. I've been disobedient. I've not followed what the Lord has asked me, or I'm doing something out of selfish ambition. And actually that's where the enemy wants to keep you, in those lies, so that you are robbed of your breakthrough, of your journey with the Lord through the wilderness and into the promised land. So I think with regards to name, so he gave me space, is what he gave me. He gave me the space I needed to really sit down and hear from him about who I was. So I got into this kind of reflection because I didn't know my role anymore. It wasn't this obvious at the time. I was just doing a lot of sitting around in my sunroom and just sitting with the Lord and being angry. There was an anger as well throughout all of this at the Lord. He can take it, and I've repented, but I think sitting down and asking him, okay, what now? Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Do you even keep your promises? Because he had promised my mum things, and in that, so this is a whole other lesson that I haven't even gone into, but
this is so good. Yeah.
Can I go into this little story?
Yes,
Because
Katie, I think there's something so raw about that, because I feel like there's a lot of condemnation that happens for women. in this place and they're like, "Oh my goodness," and then they can't enter in to that place with their father, right? It's
Mm.
the as you said, he can take it. So, yeah, I would love you to go to that place.
This is the most important lesson I have ever learned in life, and it was with God. So, I was like, my mum, at the time when she was well, she was the only in-person Christian I knew. Like, none of my friends have a faith. My sister at the time didn't. I didn't belong to a church. So it was me and my mum. I learned everything from her. She was a powerful, prophetic woman of God. And the Lord had always promised her longevity, that word longevity. And she'd hung on to it, or so I thought. So back in the day when I was a little baby, she was a baby Christian, her lung collapsed, she was in hospital, she surrendered. Now that's another lesson in the surrender. She taught me the importance of surrender if you ever want a breakthrough. And that's a story for another day. But what I was going through at the time, especially because this season took me away from achieving the things that I wanted to achieve in my business. I wasn't generating revenue. My July launch did not go as planned. I had no idea what was coming. That was why, right? So I had to cancel my September launch. All of the things that were happening. And I was like, Lord, how can I believe your word? How can I believe your promises? Even though you say you're not a man that should lie, when you've broken your promise of longevity to my mom, and it
Katie.
was the anger, the rawness. I was a mess.
Yeah.
In that moment, the Lord used that to speak to me, and he said, Katie, she did not believe me. She did not believe me. She partnered with unbelief on her promise, and she forfeited that promise because of her unbelief. And I was like, oh, I've got goosebumps thinking about it now. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay, maybe the reason, I mean, not that we are to blame as such, but part of the reason why things weren't working was because I didn't really believe what God had promised me. And let me tell you, I will never doubt God's word, God's promise. I'm not going to forfeit anything that he's promised me, because he promises us big things. Like, it's okay to dream about these big things. It's not selfish ambition. If the Lord placed something in your heart, a desire, and it's big and it's scary, it's not from you. He's placed it there. Believe him, lean into it, have the faith that he is not a man that should lie. His word does not return to him void. So that was the biggest thing that came out of this wilderness.
Well, and I think what's so important is that we are responsible for our belief and our obedience and our faith. We can't be responsible for how everybody else shows up.
Yeah.
I think, Katie, the fact that you identified, like, I can imagine, as the children of Israel walking through the wilderness, and of course they have God leading them through it all, and He's providing for every need, but they're feeling the weight and the heaviness of the
Mhm.
wilderness season. And at the wilderness season, there's promise of milk and honey. This is what the
Yes,
promised land is going to look like, and
yes.
holding on to those truths and those scriptures. It's hard, and I really appreciate the fact that you said and you spoke about the emotion that comes up. So I
Yeah.
feel like there isn't a permission for women to say, like, you do have to take that time to grieve. You
Yes,
gotta
yes.
mourn. There's a season for all things, and
Mm.
allowing for that season to do that. And I think, if I can maybe get you to speak into this, do you think without allowing yourself to experience that, do you think it would have led to making decisions that God did not want you to make decisions from, like the pressure or fear?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And previously in my business, I had made decisions based on lack, based on what if, based on not walking by faith. Saying I believe it and thinking I believe it, but actually my actions, we've got free will, right? Our actions, our walk has to align with what we're praying for, with the thing that we're having faith for. If those two things aren't in alignment with the will of God, then it's not going to happen. I think this revelation of the truth of who God is and who he says he is, and also our role in believing in who he says he is, then I think without that, you do make decisions based on your humanness, based on your limited understanding. He sees in from the beginning. His ways are not our ways. They are higher. And I think sometimes I think it shifts the way you operate and how you move. You move with more boldness when you truly fully believe that God is got a plan. If he says he's got you, if he says he sees the end from the beginning, if he says he's got a path already carved out, you better believe it and act and operate like it. I think belief and action can be separate from one another, and we can think we believe one thing, but actually if our walk is saying different, then actions speak louder than words, right?
That's so true. And I always think that, God is so gracious. He gives us the breadcrumbs
Yeah.
and our
So
job, right? Yeah. So I think in the obedience to, all of the parts that he is showing up with without getting discouraged, because sometimes that wilderness journey can take us, it can take us down a path that we're not supposed to go down. And that can be really hard for people. Katie, I want to come back to the fact that you identified he changed your name. Was that really hard to sit in? The fact that here you were and you're thinking, this is who I am. And all of a sudden the Lord says, no, this is who I'm calling you to be. This is your new name.
do you know, I think the identity was always there. I just didn't know it because nothing had
Good.
changed in terms of my delivery of my work. Like my work has stayed the same, but I've always wondered, like, Lord, how am I? Like, I know that I'm missing something. I'd been missing something for a long time, and I knew that I'd been missing something. So actually, it wasn't difficult at all. It was a moment of finding who God had created me to be. I wasn't becoming something. This was the identity that I had all along. I just didn't know it. So powerful. It was honestly, when you go through the wilderness season, you just want to come out of it. Like, you don't want to feel it. You don't want to do it anymore. I was like, Lord, I've had enough. I don't want to do it anymore. But it's necessary. The only way out is through. The thing is, though, we can, in wanting to come out of the wilderness season, because it's hard, we can rush the thing that God has prepared for us during that is going to change our lives for the better. We just can't see it yet. So, if you are going through a wilderness season right now, don't rush the process, is what I would say. It's painful. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary because God has a plan that you will understand once you've been through it. And it's not even like he's punishing you. This is not a punishment. It's not like you must go through this terrible time. It's look for God in it all. Ask him for the eyes to see what he's showing you and the ears to hear what he's saying, because without that, you can't fulfill your destiny.
No.
You can't fulfill your destiny without the twists and turns that life throws at you. And another little bit of comfort. The Lord will always course correct, depending on, he already knows what mistakes we're going to make. He already knows how much we're going to mess up. We're human. But as long as you are living in surrendered obedience and you are seeking the Lord continually, you will never forfeit the path that God has got for you. If you're continually seeking him, it doesn't matter if you make a wrong decision or a wrong move, or you don't make the move that he's asking you to make. He will course correct.
Oh, that's so good. One, I was just reflecting too as you were saying, and I wonder if there's some women out there wondering, am I circling the wilderness though? Right? So how do I know if I'm just circling? And we know, and I think I love this expression, is often that the children of Israel had to go through the wilderness to get Egypt out of them. That was the whole purpose of the wilderness season for them is that they couldn't take the mindset of slavery into the promised land. So do you think, I wonder, just because I really want to capture for some women who are like, okay, I hear you. I need to go through, don't rush it. But what if I'm circling? And what does that look like? I guess is the other question for.
Often thought, and this happened a couple of years ago when I got married, and when I moved to this house. So this was another wilderness season. And I left behind in that house that was over there a poverty mindset, just poverty in itself.
Wow. Yeah.
But it took me longer to catch up with that truth and the reality than it did when it was already done. So I think if you are there right now, I would do some journaling on, okay, what has the Lord promised me? What has the Lord promised me? And am I open to receiving it? Because we can block and sabotage our own destiny by not believing it and not receiving it and not taking the action that God's asked us to take. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel unfamiliar. It's going to feel unknown. It's going to feel like this because actually sometimes the wilderness is familiar, but I want to speak into this.
That's good, Katie.
The Lord will provide you with manna when you need it. I want you to be evaluating, has the manna stopped? If the manna has stopped, it means that you have entered the land that you get to toil yourself.
That
So
is good.
that's the promised land requires us
Yeah.
to plant our own gardens and eat our own vegetables.
Yeah.
Manna, so if you are, I have a look at if the grace has lifted a little in your wilderness season and things aren't feeling wilderness feels hard, but the Lord provides throughout all of that. And if you feel like maybe the Lord is not providing as he was when it was in the thick of it, perhaps actually you just need to catch up with the reality that the wilderness season has already ended. The manna is stopped because you have the power to feed yourself now.
For women, that perspective, if they, because I think you used a word previous was familiar. I think sometimes we look to what's familiar as a level of security and safety. As I'm listening, I'm thinking there's some people who are looking to that as a way to remind them they're okay, but familiarity isn't. Sometimes the Lord is shaking that off of us in order to step up to the next place.
Absolutely. Wilderness seasons do that. They will refine, and this is something that my wilderness season highlighted for me. There will be, and there are things that do not belong in your promised land, and the wilderness season is to shake those things off. I guess just growth where God is leading you. You're going to pioneer those territories, so they're going to feel unfamiliar. But that's because He's asking you to be a pioneer. He's not asking you to go to a place that feels comfortable and familiar. That's not His will. That's not His plan for you. And do it anyway. We can contain ourselves and not receive the fullness of what God has got for us because we are scared and allowing fear to stop us from stepping out into the unknown. Let me tell you, right, my whole life has been a story of leaping out into the unknown, following what God has asked me to do. And I've had no idea what's going to go there. I've got no idea what I'm going into. I've got no idea how I'm going to do it. This has been a theme of my life. But every time you step out and leap into the unknown, God is waiting to catch you. You've got to do it because on the other side of the unknown is the thing that God has got for you that's just going to blow your mind. So live on the edge, step into the fear, as Christians, we have to be comfortable in the not knowing. We have to get to okay, Lord, this is faith in action. I trust you. Even though I don't know and I don't feel confident, comfortable, if it feels scary, if it feels unfamiliar, that's exactly where the enemy doesn't want you to go over there, because that's where you get to fulfill your destiny. That's what God has got for you. And I think we can sell ourselves short by staying in the comfortable and the familiar. That's not what God's plan for you. It's not God's plan for you.
No, it certainly is the way the enemy wants to move, because then there's a shrinking of oneself. And you had said, like, we in the New Testament, it talks about we carry out our lives with fear and trembling. So we have to understand, like, this is an Old Testament, this is New Testament. It says, but what do we need to understand that? Is that there's an obedience and a faith that comes with carrying out what we're called to carry. And I know, Katie, when you're walking through your wilderness season and God's changing your name, as you entered into that, so where you are today, what are you seeing in your life today in the fruit? Because we don't talk about the fruit that comes out of the wilderness season. So I'm wondering, as an encouragement to those who are like, I'm in it, I'm not feeling the fruit, like, where's the fruit in this?
Yeah. The fruit the day you sow the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Let's just lay that foundation, right? So it can be uncomfortable and wait. Like, I don't like waiting. I'm impatient.
Yeah.
But God does use it all around for good, or turn it all around for good. So what's happened in my business since the name change is an ease. I operate from peace now.
Oh, that's so
and
good. Yeah.
And it's not just peace. That translates into how I run my business. That translates into the clients that I'm signing. It's translated into the offers that the Lord is having me create, which are just like, I'm so excited. He's given me a new name for my company. All of these things that I have been wanting for 18 months that have been an unknown are now beginning to be revealed because now I can carry it. I've let go of the things that my arms were full of that meant that I could not pick up what the fullness of what God had got for me. And I now have this knowing. Before, when you think about the way your business is going to go, or the way your life is going to go, you're like, I hope this and I hope that. But actually, there's I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Where I'm at right now, there is no doubt in my mind that the trajectory that God is taking me on, not from my own doing, right? This is all the Lord, but the mentorship vessel that he's having me create is completely different to anything out there that I do not feel qualified for, but he's calling me to it. And I know it's going to succeed. And I know it's going to bless so many of his daughters. The company name, my signature program is growing. The women in there are just getting incredible results. Everything is just working. Everything is just falling into place. And the best thing about that is not worrying anymore. There is no worry. Like, what if, all of that stuff that the old us experiences and thinks and feels and wonders, that's been left in the wilderness season. I'm in the land of promise, and it's just be encouraged, because all of those things that God has promised you, that you may be wondering and faltering on, or thinking it doesn't feel like it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
It will happen. It's already happening. If God has spoken it to you, it already exists. You're just yet to see it in the earthly realm yet. So don't allow hope deferred to stay longer than it needs to. Just honestly, the things that God has been doing in orchestrating in my business, it's just peace. There's security. It's security. I feel secure where I am. And I've not felt that prior to this wilderness season.
Well, and I wonder if that's the essence of knowing that scripture, be still and know that I am God. And if women in the wilderness season can come out of that, knowing that God is faithful, he is steadfast, and we know that he doesn't leave us or forsake us. I think, Katie, just listening to your story in the fruit, I'm going to say that the greatest fruit is what you are now speaking from.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's this tangible experience that when you go, which you can't, like, it's sure you can get beautiful systems out of the wilderness season, but you can't get the fruit of the Spirit that actually becomes the most refined expression of who Christ is.
Yes.
If you don't go through the wilderness season. And that, just as you talked about, to know that you can just be at peace and in ease.
Yeah, it's rest. It's real rest.
Yes.
Real rest, because he's steadfast, 100%.
Yeah.
And when he takes you through the wilderness season, there will be times when you can't hear him and can't feel him. But there will be times when you will feel him and hear him like you've never before. And he will show himself in a different way to you, in the most beautiful, gentle way that actually you can't experience God like that when you're not in a wilderness season.
No.
Of the Lord that you only get to experience, I think, in those really difficult seasons. And then your relationship with him will never be the same as it was before. There's a deepening of the knowing and being at rest in his goodness.
That's really good. Hey, I'm wondering if you could, I know that some of the women who will be listening to this episode, I wonder if there's something practical you could suggest to women, what they could do if they're feeling like, I feel like I'm in this wilderness season and it feels dry, it feels really hard. I want to leave them with something practical.
This is something that is going to feel strange to you, but let me tell you, this is the most powerful exercise I have ever done for my life, my business, my finances, my relationships, everything. So it's Ezekiel 37. It talks about the dry bones. There was a sea of dry bones, and the Lord said, prophesy to these bones. So what the Lord had me do, and I thought, this is crazy. God, what are you doing here? However, it works. So write out all of the things that feel dry and dead in your life, in your business, in your relationships, whatever it is, all of the things on pieces of paper. And this is what I did. I wrote out all of the things, the feelings, the characteristics, the results, all of the, like, social media, creativity, confidence, boldness, or belief, all of this stuff, like real, get specific as well.
That's
And
good.
write them on pieces of paper, and I put them on my desk, and I read out Ezekiel 37, and I prophesied over the dead bones that were on these pieces of paper, and I commanded them to get back to life. And so go and read and use the words that the Lord asked him, say this. So I read it word for word, and I spoke to all the dry bones, the dead things, and I spoke life into them. And then I spoke the Lord's breath into them, and I thanked the Lord. And honestly, I'm sure it was that was the turning point, really, because we have to take action in faith, and
Yeah.
that will feel like it's a little bit, you might feel like you're being a bit silly, but let me tell you, that practical thing there really, really works. Ezekiel 37, prophesy life to the dead dry bones.
Well, and Katie, it's interesting as you were sharing just the practical, it really speaks to like God has given us the instructions on how to walk a wilderness journey.
Mm,
We can first look at how Jesus walked the wilderness journey. And I just want to capture the essence of what you're really practically telling women to do is that Jesus spoke the word, that he
mm,
battled in the wilderness by speaking out the truth. And
yes,
what you're identifying is the very same thing is that you're speaking the truth of the word of God over
yes.
season.
Yes, over the specifics.
Specific, yes, and that's exactly what Jesus did too, as he
Yeah,
was drawn to the wilderness by the Holy Spirit. He spoke to the specifics. So when the challenges come and, the enemy likes to whisper, "Oh, goodness me," of course, Jesus showed us how to do this, and I just love that practical suggestion of doing that. So I can just see women, and I'm gonna say everybody needs to do this. Sit at your kitchen table, actually practically do it. Don't go on
yeah.
AI because I'm
No,
just going to say,
physically do.
yes, like write it down and see it with your eyes and put it in your own words. I think is such a beautiful way of approaching a
Brilliant.
wilderness season that sometimes feels very discouraging. So, Katie, I just thank you so much for this time with
You're
me.
welcome.
I am going to, for everyone, I'm going to leave all of Katie's ways that you can reach out to her. It's going to be in the notes. Every detail that you would need to know more about her, I would encourage you to follow her. She is an incredible ministry. You will continue. I cannot say more that she is truly authentic and genuine. And just to be a part of her community, I would really highly encourage everyone to do that. Thank you, Katie, for this time
Thank
with
you, my
me.
darling.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us
Yeah.
on Sword and Grace Unscripted.